This is a video on the Berlin airlift. Please enjoy. Right after World War II ended, the nation of Germany and the city of Berlin were split into four sections: France with the Northwest, UK with the Midwest, US with the Southwest, and all the East belonging to the USSR. These nations were known as the Four-Power Council. Although they had an alliance, things were quickly getting heated because the way the Allies and the USSR wanted to determine Germany's future. While the USSR wanted Germany to be crushed due to the amount of times that Germany had invaded the USSR in the past, the Allies wanted to have Germany to be economically prosperous, because giving unnecessary hardships to an already economically ruined country will only result in another Hitler. The Allies had already tried to refurbish Germany's currency, but it was foiled due to the USSR sabotaging it. Eventually, the Allies had enough and started making plans behind the USSR's back, and even considered making a West German state. Once the USSR heard of this news, however, things quickly turned into a downturn. The USSR left the Four-Power Council, and the Allies released a new currency, the Deutschmark. In response, the USSR put up a land blockade around West Berlin, causing it to not have any more food imports. The USSR did this to starve West Berlin into submission. This caused the Allies forces to think, and they had an idea. They would deliver food via plane, and the USSR couldn't shoot them down because it would be an act of war. Unfortunately, they only had old bombers in bulk. The flour was also explosive, and limited pilots, but they persevered with the plan anyway. Thus, the plan was complete, and they sent their first planes. The USSR immediately took notice and followed with fighter planes, but luckily were not shut down. They continued, but it was hellish. Planes were flying into mountains. The limited pilots were getting so exhausted that they fell asleep on the wheel. Overall, everything was beginning to fall apart for the Berlin airlift, but one man showed hope and have saved everything. His name was Gail Haverson, and he was known as the Candy Bomber. Unknown for a short time from his superiors, he dropped candy for the children, and once it was seen by his superiors, they saw potential. He was ordered to do it more, and this got attention from the other countries that recognized and helped that West Berlin needed. More pilots volunteered, more engineers volunteered, and the pilots were given newer planes. Due to the efforts, the people of West Berlin that hated the pilots because just a few years earlier they bombed their city, came out to greet them with beer as friends. Things were going amazingly until winter struck. Engines froze due to the cold and crashed. Fog was so thick that the unloading crew had to crawl on the field in fear that they would be mutilated by the propellers on the planes. After winter passed, everything was going absolutely great. Well, before the Berlin airlift, West Berlin and West Germany were in economic ruin. After the Berlin airlift, it was more prosperous than East Germany. 2.3 million tons of food were delivered to West Berlin. After that, the USSR finally opened the blockade, and it was never closed after that again. Soon after the Berlin airlift, East Berlin became its own proxy state, controlled by the Soviet Union, and had its own currency. But it was nothing compared to West Berlin. 2 months after that, the USSR first atomic bomb test was commenced. Some say that the Cold War started with the end of the Berlin airlift.